Good morning and welcome to Tina's Crafty Ink Spot. I hope you're enjoying the blog hop so far. Some amazing projects in this hop for Halloween. Halloween's not one of my strong point cards, but I decided I wanted to do something with a galaxy star background. I, for some reason, just felt like Halloween. So I originally came up with this layout where I used the baby wipe technique. And although I like this, I came up with something even more fun than just doing baby wipe. And believe it or not, guess what? We're going to be using floor wax. Yes, floor wax. Yes, I should have been mopping my floors, but instead I was playing with the wax in my craft room. And we came up with this. And it's got a galaxy sky. I don't know if you can see it. I've got some golds in there and some glitters. And this is all done on a window sheet. And it's a form of mixed media. Even the moon I did with this technique. And it's really hard to show you on film all the different little colors and just looks like a night sky galaxy. So we'll get started on this card right here today. I'll have a list of all the supplies in my write up below this video, and we'll be using window sheets. We'll be using some tissue paper. We'll also be using, voila, mop and glow. I suppose you could use any floor wax, but this is what I had on hand. And I thought, well, you know, people can do things with dryer sheets. Why can't I do something with floor wax? So let's get started. So we start out with our window sheets, and I've cut out two pieces. The one I'm going to do the moon color, the other for the background. Now I've cut these a little larger than what I need because I can always trim them down. So I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way here. What we're going to do, and I found a little, just a tiny little bowl, small sponge paintbrush, and our mop and glow. So I'm going to put a little bit of the mop and glow in our bowl here. You can tell I've been doing this most of the day. You can also tell by how much ink's on my hand. I would suggest if you're not a big fan of getting inky and messy, I would wear a pair of gloves. Myself, I don't worry about it. So I've also cut some, this is regular gift tissue paper. Make sure you cut it plenty large, much larger than the sheet that you're working with. You're going to be able to trim it off, but you don't want to not have enough. So we're going to take that, we're going to crumple it up. And we're going to do it for the other sheet too. I'm going to try to do both of these at the same time. So we're just going to crumple it up. Gently unfold it. Try not to tear it. But you don't want to flatten it. You want all your big crinkles, and if you need more, just crinkle it. So I'm going to set that one aside. I'm going to open up this one. I wanted some more crinkles, so just add some more crinkles. Can't go wrong. I'm going to set that aside. So let's start with our small piece first. This is the one that I'm going to use to create our moon. And this card, when you see this technique or you try it, you'll realize that the camera just cannot do this justice for how many dimensions are in this. And it's super fun. So what we're going to do is all I need is some Ray Inkers. And for my moon, I'm going to use Daffodil Delight and Mango Melody, which is one of the new oranges, and it's a nice bright orange. So we're going to take our floor wax. I put a sticky sheet down just to protect your surface, and things will wipe off it real easy. Just add some wax. Be liberal. I mean, you want it wet because you want your inks to flow. We're going to take, I'm going to start with the Daffodil Delight. And we'll be cutting out this moon, so you'll have enough uh, space left here if you want to, it would look really cute if you cut out a pumpkin or something out of it, because the back side of it kind of looks like stained glass technique. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to add a few drops of the Mango Melody. Now this ink's going to move around, and you don't want to put way too much because then you'll just get a muddy effect. What I'm going to do is just kind of roll it around a little bit. And then a new trick is I keep my Dazzling Diamonds. I guess that's upside down for you. But I have this tiny little spritzer, and it's just a pointed bottle. And I put my Dazzling Diamonds in it because you can direct where you want your Dazzling Diamonds. Now, I don't want the whole thing covered in Dazzling Diamonds like you would with stained glass. All I want is a few little spritzes of it. And then I took, this is our, it's shimmer paint. There we go. I took some shimmer paint, some gold shimmer paint, and I mixed it with my rubbing alcohol into a spritzer. You can usually do about halfway full of rubbing alcohol, and it only takes maybe a couple drops of the shimmer paint. And you shake it up. And then I'm just going to do a few spritzes because I want it to kind of look like Gold Galaxy. And it's going to spread because now we're going to take our tissue paper, and I would suggest getting yourself a paper towel, and we're going to lay our tissue paper over this. And I'm going to half mine because I want my paper towel to stay sort of wet. And then we're just going to press the tissue paper into the ink and the floor polish. Try to keep as many wrinkles as you can, because you'll see when it turns over, those wrinkles add a really nice highlight to it. So make sure all of your tissue paper is wet. I'm going to zoom this in a little bit for you. See if that'll help a little. And I'm just dabbing it to make sure it's wet. Especially around your edges. But you don't want to pick up too much because your floor wax is going to work as an adhesive. So it doesn't only spread the ink, it also works as an adhesive. And because I'm too impatient to just wait for it to dry, we're going to take the heat tool to it. And it doesn't take long to dry at all. It'll set it. If you see some spots that are lifting, just tap them down a little bit. And now you got to remember, this is window sheet. So keep your heat tool moving. You don't want to warp your window sheet. I was thinking this side would look really good as just a mixed media itself, but when you turn it over, it really pops. You've got some gold streaks in there, you've got a little bit of glitter accents, and this is going to be our harvest moon. I clean off, I would use a baby wipe and clean off this. I'm going to wipe the good side just to get any residue off of my window sheet. You'll have a little bit where where the ink and the polish had seeped underneath. But then we're going to set that aside to dry a little bit more while we do our sky. Look at all the accents in there. Alright, so let's move on to our next one. I'm going to set that aside to dry. And take my next window sheet. I kind of want to just dab my brush with the baby wipe just to make sure I don't have any orange, because I don't want orange in my sky. So in for the sky, let's go ahead. Just kind of dab it on there. I'll try to fast forward through this video where I can for you, because you have a busy day. There's some wonderful cards on this blog hop you're not going to want to miss. So I'm going to set that aside. And on this one, I want to use Blueberry Bushel, Reinker. I want a little bit of Tempting Turquoise. And I'm going to add just a touch of Highland Heather just to add some purples in there. And take a paintbrush, old paintbrush, and just move it around a little bit. All I did was take my brush and just tap a couple areas. And it's going to cause it to bleed or blend more. And then just tap it off and you'll see it lifts a little bit of the color. I don't want a lot lifted off of it. It looks really dark here, but when you turn it over, it won't. And believe it or not, we're going to take a check at it just to see if I need to, why it's wet, if I need to add any other. Nope, it's coming out perfect, everybody. I was going to flip that all the way over, but the tissue's wet, so it will tear very easily. Okay. Now we're going to dry it a little. Or dry it a lot, actually, because I like it wood. You can see as it dries where the edges of your window sheet are underneath. And all I'm doing is tapping those down to make sure they're adhered. When you hit it with a heat tool. This one I'm also going to set aside, and we'll cut out our moon while we wait for this one to dry a little more. And so I know I have a lot on the other side. Let me move this out of the way. Take a baby wipe. Wipe off my hands. And just clean the back side of the window sheet. what I did notice is I have several really light areas here that I'm not really fond of because I want a little darker sky. But look at the gold streaks in there. So if you end up with something like that, you don't like an easy fix. Put a little bit more, couple drops of ink on your, and then you'll see where your light areas are. And just tap them. It will add dark accent in there. It'll soak through the tissue paper. I mean, actually, the white accents would look more like clouds to me, but see, it just adds a little bit. Like any mixed media, you can add, take away, whatever you like, because every time you do this, it's going to be different. And that's what makes mixed media fun. It's always different. Even like this side, you could make something with this side if you wanted. I suppose you could do it on, instead of a window sheet, you could actually probably do this technique on like glossy cardstock, and you would get a really neat effect. Maybe I'll try that one. We're gonna take this one, wipe it off a little bit. And there you go. It will get better. Watch, you'll see. Let me move some of this inky stuff out of the way. Move our floor wax. And then you're just gonna take, you could either take and trim right along your window sheet. It gives you a little more idea. So look at the golds in there and the little glitter accents. So before we trim it down to the size we need, I'm going to show you how I do stars. And I pretty much do stars the same on whether or not I'm doing baby wipe technique or even on regular card stock when you're doing stars. So let me change our paper here so we don't end up with ink where we don't want it. I know this is a long video, so I'll try to fast forward through areas. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know in the comments. But see how nice that came out. So now, to create our stars, we are going to take a white gel pen. Now, I didn't trim this exactly to size yet because we're going to mount it on the card base. But I'm going to do my stars first so that they're random. Move some inks out of the way here. Let's take your white gel pen. And I'll zoom in a little bit. Maybe we can see better. Once you get your gel pen started, I do different size dots. You want a few big ones. You want some scattered small ones. I'll do a couple of these, then I will fast forward through this for you. Hopefully I fast forwarded through that for you. And now I'm going to show you when you do stars, although this looks just fine, I'm going to show you, you know how you look at a star and you see a halo, kind of like a glow. What I do for that on any star project I do is here is the Frost White shimmer paint. Shake it up. It's got a little ball in it. And then all you need to do is you only need what's in the lid here. And you take a Q-tip and you dab it in the lid. And then you really want to dab it off. Let me grab a piece of scrap paper here. Something to dab off on. So I'm just going to, and I want it really quite dry is what I want. I want it, most of your wet to go off. So you've got a really dry Q-tip. And then pick the star you want and just dab on the star. And you're just adding a little bit of halo. Lightly dab it a couple times. And using the Frost ink gives it even more of a glow. I would suggest to make sure that your gel pen is dry before you start this, because it takes a little bit, especially on the window sheet, for your gel pen to dry. If you don't, your Q-tip will just pick up the gel pen, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but you're just trying to create a small glow around a couple of your stars. And as you see, I picked up the gel pen on that one, so I'm just going to put a little dot right in the middle of it. Just gives it back its glow. There's no exact science to it, just whatever you think you like. You're just adding a real light. And all I'm doing right now is picking up some of it. Okay, and there we go. And now we have our glowing stars. So we have our oranges dry, which we're going to do our moon. And what I'm going to do is go cut out, using the circle dies, my moon. But I noticed when I laid my moon against my blue, it didn't quite, it kind of got lost in there. I don't know if you can see that. So what I did is I mounted it on a piece of Daffodil Delight and then circle punched it. So we're going to do that. I'm going to okay. My owl, I took a piece of wood grain paper that is listed in the description below, and I black embossed my owl. If you look at him with the wood grain, it makes it look like feathers. So we have our owl, and now we wanted these bright eyes. So what I did for his eyes, after I cut him out, is I took some glitter enamel dots and a Sharpie pen, because Sharpie won't rub off. And I picked the two eyes I want. I think I want these, this size. And I drew on Sharpie his pupils. When you do it in Sharpie, it's not going to rub off. If you do it in a regular marker, it'll rub off quite quickly unless it's very dry. But since it's a slick surface, the tree limb is out of black foil paper. And you notice when you cut your foils or some papers, you have like this white edge. The trick I have is I take my black marker, the feather edge, and go from the back side, because if you're doing a picture, you don't want to get ink on your good side. And I just do my edges. You could probably do the same with a sponge, but since this is so small, sponging it's a little difficult. For this, I can just hit it with my marker. I'm going to do the same to my owl. This is just clouds cut out of vellum. Figure out where everything goes. Cloud under our moon. Well, that was silly. Just glued it down. When you have really small pieces, glue sponge. I have some little fence here. If you don't have a small fence, you can also do like this one and create a wooden fence from wood grain paper. There you go. little kitty go? You can find these little tiny blings. They're actually nail gems. You can get this whole box for a whole box of different colors for like $5. And there you go. Thank you for stopping by today. Enjoy the blog hop.